G'day, everybody. It's Manners here, and welcome to cricket season 2024-25. The Cricket Unfiltered podcast has a huge summer ahead with India touring here for what will be a blockbuster 5-test series. Now, great news for podcast listeners. I will be doing a weekly Mad Manners podcast episode where it's going to be like a podcast column where I'm going to get my cricket opinions, my cricket thoughts off my chest on my very own Mad Manners weekly episode. The Mad Manners brand has never been stronger, coming off winning the Radio Today Podcast Award for Best Indie Sports Podcast in Australia. So you'll be getting those during the week. Also got a huge summer ahead. We'll be doing daily wraps after the test matches. We'll be doing a regular weekly episodes. If you want an ad-free version of Cricket Unfiltered, you can head to our Patreon. And I'd love it if a few more listeners subscribed on Patreon. You get the episodes early, you get ad-free episodes, and you get to support the show. Also, we are taking on sponsors for the coverage of the Indian tour. So if you want to sponsor the show, we're going to be highly consumed over the summer. It's going to be a very, very popular series, and Cricket Unfiltered will be there to cover it all. Now, the first Mad Manners weekly episode is all about whether this Australian side is about to fall off a cliff. There is so much at stake for Australian cricket over the next 18 months. Australia has a chance to regain the Border Gavaskar Trophy this summer. It's also a chance to get some revenge after India have won the last two series here in Australia. The first one without Smith and Warner, so the Australian team was able to use that as an excuse. But in the last series, we had our full strength side, and India came over the top of us with a famous victory at the Gabba. So a big summer ahead for Australia, but they will be very tested by what the opposition is going to bring. Obviously, India has a great pace bowling attack, and they have a very strong batting lineup. So you've got that looming large. But then after that, Australia has a chance to defend its World Test Championship title. The World Test Championship final will be played for the first time next year in June at Lords, and Australia will have a chance to defend that title if they're good enough. So far, they're in a top two spot in the World Test Championship ladder. But this summer, and then they tour Sri Lanka, they're really going to determine whether Australia makes it to that World Test Championship. Then after the World Test Championship next summer, it's going to be huge. The Ashes is on again. England are going to tour here with Ben Stokes and bloody Brendan McCullum, both desperate for revenge after being, well, I was embarrassed on home soil last year where they went down 2-0 in a home Ashes after blowing so much hot air about Bazball. So Australia has two of its biggest test series to come, plus a World Test Championship final. And I am nervous that Australia's team is going to age out over this period. And in my experience watching teams age out, you never know quite when it's going to happen because different players age out at different ages. You know, some players, or so, for example, some batters can keep going well into their 30s and perform very well. But then on the other hand, we saw a player like Ricky Ponting really nosedive towards the end of his career. And I always think about the 2015 Ashes tour. So Australia went into the 2015 Ashes series strong favourites. They had a better team. And in fact, they should have won that series. But they just aged out on that tour, and it cost them a chance at winning the Ashes. So in that series, you had Ryan Harris do his knee in the lead up, had to retire. You had Brad Haddin retire after the first test. You had Shane Watson dropped and retired. You had Michael Clarke retire at the end of the series. You had Adam Voges retire at the end of the series. So what we don't want is for Australia to be caught short in the next 18 months. And this is where George Bailey and the selectors, this is where they earn their money. This is where Tony Dodemaide, Bailey, McDonald will earn their paycheck because they have to make some tough decisions so it doesn't happen mid-series. And that's why I think this summer in particular is going to be so important because, for a start, Australia's top order will be tested by India's fantastic pace attack. And therefore, Khawaja, Labuschagne, Smith, Head, Green, and Mitch Marsh, they're going to be under the pump. And if they don't perform against this attack, their spots will obviously be in jeopardy. There'll be no coasting through this summer. Not to say last summer's was easy, but it wasn't the challenge that they'll face this summer. And some of these older players could be exposed. We'll get into details soon, but that is the challenge. So this summer looms as a huge test. If some players might not make it out of this series, and therefore we could have a very different looking batting lineup when we face England in the Ashes next summer. What we don't want, as I said before, is for it to happen out of our control, that we are dropping players and picking new players because we are losing matches. You know, we saw in 2010-11 here, if Australia starts to lose a home Ashes series, the shit will hit the fan. And I have to say, Bailey has and his selection panel have consistently failed at making tough decisions when it comes to dropping experienced players. I've mentioned it many times, but they held on to Aaron Finch for way too long. They've persisted with an aging T20 side that did fantastically in 2021, winning the T20 World Cup, but was not able to win or make it to the semi-finals of the last two T20 World Cups. So they have bad form in making the tough decisions. And we're going to get into some stats, but there are actually concerning signs for our team. And I think, as I said, this summer against India is going to be a huge test because all the players are going to be under this microscope. If it doesn't go well for Australia, they will be forced to reinvent the side ahead of the Ashes next year. And as I said, that might actually be better than, oh my God, starts to happen next summer during the Ashes that we're too old and Stokes and McCullum start to win that series. And that is my big fear, as you know. So I want to go through some of the spots in the team that are concerning me. Let's start with the batting lineup. Usman Khawaja is almost 38. And he is in decline. It is undeniable. So since he came back into the side in 2022, he averaged a whopping 67.5 when he made the side. The year after, in 2023, he averaged 52.61. But this year so far, 2024, he's averaged just 30. So he is in decline. And when you're at the top of the order, you are exposed. And if your reflexes or you just drop off a little bit, then it is very difficult to perform. And he's going to have Bumrah, Shami, Siraj coming at him this summer, bowling rockets. And I'm concerned that a 38-year-old is not going to be able to handle that. Will he make the Ashes next year? I'm not even sure Khawaja wants to make the Ashes next year. Who knows? He hasn't said anything. But Australia, struggling to find one opener to be paired with him, might be looking for two openers very, very quickly. So that is something to look out for. Khawaja's form is in decline. And if he doesn't start this series well against India, I think this could be his last summer as an international opening batter. And does Australia want to take a 39-year-old opening batter into the Ashes next summer? I don't know. The question has yet to be answered. But Khawaja, if he performs against this Indian attack, then he will have shut me up because it is one of the best attacks in the world. But it is something to watch very closely how Khawaja starts this series against India. Next, we have the incomparable Steve Smith. He's 35 years old now. And I ask you, how steep will his decline get? Or does he bounce back? Does he have a renaissance now? Does he have an increase in his form, an increase in output? Because he has dropped off. So in 2022, he averaged 58 with the bat. In 2023, he averaged just 42. And then this year so far, he's averaging just a tick over 30. That's not good enough for a player of his talent. And there was that 5-year period where he was averaging 70 at test level. And I ask you, will he be a Ricky Ponting who just falls off a cliff and can never regain anything close to the form they had at the peak of their career? I'm not sure. Kerry O'Keefe often says that eye players, once their eye starts to go, their form can really decline. So again, a bit like Khawaja, Smith will be under the microscope against India. If he struggles, is he going to pull the pin on his career? Will he just decide to go into the T20 circuit, make a lot of cash, and sit back and enjoy his little apartment in New York? I don't know, but the fact is, it's undeniable his form has been in a steep decline in the last few years. I know there's been a lot of debate about whether we'll open the batting or not, but either way, wherever he bats, just watch it, because what Australia can't afford is, what if it happens to two players at once? What if Khawaja and Smith have a stinker this summer? Well, we are fucked. The Border Gavaskar Trophy is not coming home if both those players have a stinker. And then come Ashes next summer, we're going to need to fill those spots. Now, I'm not saying Steve Smith is going to be dropped, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that he pulls the pin on his Test career if he struggles this summer against India. And then you look at so you've got, Smith and Khawaja at the top of the order somewhere. They might not be opening, but they'll be in the top order. Then you've got Cam Green to come. Now, it's not an age thing with him, but he's unproven at number 4 at Test level. This series against India will be his biggest test. So if he doesn't perform, we're going to need a batter at 4 for the Ashes next summer. I have a lot of faith in Cam Green, and I think he will come good, but unproven. But back to players that are getting on a bit. I want to talk about Mitch Marsh. Mitch Marsh is almost 33. He's changed from an all-rounder now to an out-and-out batter. He doesn't bowl much. He doesn't bowl much in white ball cricket. He bowls occasionally in red ball cricket. He does bowl nice little outswingers in red ball cricket, but he's not Australia's premier all-rounder now. Cameron Green is that player. And the one thing that Cameron Green brings to the table is, he's an out-and-out Test bowler. He could probably play for Australia as an out-and-out Test bowler, but instead he's obviously this fantastic all-rounder. So Mitch Marsh is not the all-rounder anymore. He can't rely on that to hold his spot in the side. And he had a great 2023, but Mitch Marsh, like his whole family, his batting has been woefully inconsistent at Test level. It has been rocks and diamonds for him. Let me go through his career. Now, I will like to put on the record that obviously some of these years he was bowling, but still he was always batting in the top 6. His average year by year as a Test player, going back to 2014 when he made his Test debut, he averaged 37 with the bat that year. That's a good year for him. He averaged 15 with the bat the year after, 20 the year after that, 44 the year after that in 2017, so a good year. But then it seemed like in 2017 he turned the corner as a Test player. But then the year after that, averaged 21.7 with the bat, was dropped. Came back into the side just for one match in 2019, averaged 20 with the bat, and then spent 4 years out of the side until coming back into the side in 2023 with that famous 100 at Old Trafford, and he averaged 67.5 in 2023. But this year, he's back to his old form line and averaging 26. So, you put those figures together and, you put Marsh's figures together, Smith's and Khawaja's, that's half our top 6. If I'm an Indian fast bowler, I'm licking my bloody lips. I'm like, I'm going to win this Border Gavaskar series in Australia again. So, Mitch Marsh, huge summer ahead for him. And there has been some conjecture that they might put him up to open the batting with Usman Khawaja. Well, it will be make or break for him. He's almost 33. His career marred by huge inconsistencies with the bat. And I'm sorry, but why would anyone have faith that he'll have a consistent summer? I don't know. Like, he's looked great, but he's looked great in the past and averaged 20 with the bat in a year of Test cricket more than once. I mean, I just read out 9 years. I read out 9 years of his test career, and he's averaged over 30 just 3 times in 9 years. Over 30. Not 40, because 40 really is sort of a pass mark for a test player. Over 35 if you're an all-rounder, but really it's that 40. For his position, he should be averaging 40. So Mitch Marsh, again, spot is under scrutiny. The Ashes looms the summer after this. He's done very well against England in the past, but will he be there? And this is the problem for Australia. If it all goes wrong at once, we are going to be in a world of pain. We're going to need half a batting lineup to play in the Ashes next summer. I don't know if that's the proper planning. I don't know if it's good enough from our selectors. I don't know if they've thought this through enough, because if I'm a selector, I'm thinking maybe we need to get another player in this summer, a younger player at some stage, because as I said, if it all goes wrong next summer against Baz and Stokes, there'll be madmenners coming out of your bloody, well, anyway, you can fill in the rest. All right, next player to look at. Again, Alex Carey. We spoke a bit about this on the recent episode of Cricket Unfiltered. He's 33 years old, but he is coming off a match-winning innings in New Zealand. But my question is, Josh Inglis's ceiling higher? Is Inglis a match winner? He's also 4 years younger than Carey. Shouldn't we be thinking, as good as Carey is, this team needs an injection of under 30s players, because it needs experience. It needs players ready to take that step to the next level. You can't throw in, and we've seen it so many times for Australian cricket in the past, if you make too many changes at once, you can completely fuck the team up. You go back to Lilly, Marsh and Chappell. You go to Warne, Langer and McGrath. I mean, these are, when you take out 3 or 4 players from a test side at once, it is very, very difficult for them to continue to perform at a high level. So you need to do it sort of one by one. And they're certainly not doing that. Now, it would be very hard to drop Alex Carey after his 98 not out in the last test. But sometimes hard decisions have to be made. He's played 4 years of test cricket. He averaged 19 in his first year with the bat. He averaged 48.7 in his second year with the bat. Great year. Last year, he averaged just 24 with the bat. This year so far, he's averaging a flat 35. And that 98 not out in New Zealand has probably saved his test career when you consider how well Inglis has done in the white ball team. But again, he will be under the microscope facing the quality Indian attack. No offense to New Zealand, but it's going to be a much sterner challenge than it was in New Zealand. And if Carey doesn't perform, then Inglis will be in that spot soon. I don't think Carey is under the pump, but for example, Carey might take some baggage into next year's Ashes after the Johnny Bairstow incident. I think Carey's a national hero for running out Bairstow, but do we want that? So it's up to Carey to take the question out of the selector's hand. Perform this summer against India, and then your spot's assured. I really like Carey. I've said it many times. I think he's a fantastic wicketkeeper batter. I do think Inglis offers something a little different. But just with the way the batting order is at the moment, if Mitch Marsh is at 6 and he does come out there and just smack from ball 1, you would have Mitch Marsh and Inglis at 6 and 7 who are quite aggressive players. So at the moment, for balance, I'm happy to have Carey there. But as I said, he needs to perform against Bumrah and co this summer. Otherwise, he will find himself carrying the drinks again. So that's the batting lineup. Sorry, a little bit of doom and gloom there, but these are facts. Facts don't lie. A lot of these players are in decline. Let's look at the bowling attack. And this is a different question, because a bit like batters, you just don't know when a bowler's going to just lose that yard that makes them a force at test level. And some players and some bowlers, like a McGrath, has the sort of action that could go on forever. McGrath could probably still take test wickets. Trundle bowl that beautiful metronomic action. He bowl 95% of deliveries on or outside of stump. Can these bowlers do the same? Because this bowling attack has been together since 2017 when Pat Cummins came back into the team after a long absence. And you will remember they were together for the 2017-18 Ashes where Jackson Bird played one test. There was an injury, but this attack played. Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood and Lyon were together that whole summer. They were together the whole last Ashes series. So, they've been around a long time and the English team have faced them a lot. So are they still going to be as effective as they get older? So Cummins, 31 years old now. I know he looks ageless, ladies, but he isn't. And his form has been very good, but since taking over the captaincy, his form has slipped. In 2018, he averaged 20 with the ball. In 2019, 20 with the ball. In 2020, 17 with the ball. In 2021, 19 with the ball. Then 2022, he gets the captaincy, averages 22. 2023 has the captaincy, averages 28. 2024 averages 26. So captaincy has certainly taken something from his bowling. Still a decent record. 269 wickets at 22.54. Strike rate of 47, not bad. But again, captaincy has affected his bowling. How much will the strain of captaining against India, long hot days in Australia, against that long batting lineup, what will they do to his bowling? I don't know. You be the judge. Josh Hazlewood is 33, almost 34. And I think Hazlewood is the player I'm least worried about because he has a bit like McGrath, that beautiful action, hit the wicket hard. He's the sort of bowler that losing a little bit of pace is not going to take away from his effectiveness because he's always bowling very consistently. And he's got an amazing record, 273 wickets at an average of 24.83. And his last 2 years have been fantastic. Averaged 26 in 2023. But then this year so far, he's averaging just 14 with the ball. So he's getting better as he matures. And in fact, if you go back through his career, 2022 wasn't a great year for him. He only played 2 test matches. But the 3 years before that, he averaged 22, 16, 23. So I'm not worried about Hazlewood. But then we get to their great mate, Mitchell Stark. He's a year older than Hazlewood. So you've got Cummins 31, you've got Hazlewood 33, Stark 34. So you'd imagine Cummins will be around the longest. But then Mitchell Stark, 34, almost 35. He's played 89 tests. He has stated he wants to play 100 tests. He's been, I would say, a little inconsistent in the last few years when you look at his strike rate and bowling average. But what he does do is he does always take wickets for Australia, and he's a wicket taker. He takes tail end wickets. He'll winkle a couple out with the new ball. So this year so far, he's averaging 32 with the ball, but striking at 49. So that's a wicket every 49.69 balls. Last year, 2023, his strike rate was under 40, which is phenomenal. So although he tends to go for a few runs, he's still showing that ability to take wickets. 16 wickets so far this year, 38 last year, 35 the year before that. But I guess my concern with Stark is, unlike Hazlewood, I think if Stark does lose a yard or two of pace, it will dramatically change his performance at test level. That's kind of one of his big advantages at the moment. He has that extra yard of pace combined with the angle and the extra bounce, makes him a very difficult customer. But if he just loses a little bit of that zip, then I think he becomes cannon fodder. So when will that happen? What if he loses his zip in the middle of the first test against India? Could be a lot of leather chasing. What if he loses zip in the middle of the Ashes next summer when we're 2-0 down? We're too late then. So they will have to monitor him very closely. I would like to think he can make the Ashes next year, but then, do we go in with Hazlewood, Stark, Cummins again? I do think it's a risk. Do we need a young firebrand like a Lance Morris who can really stick it up the Poms? So again, a lot at stake for Stark. If he goes the journey against India, I don't think we'll see him for the Ashes next summer. And it's a big call, I know, but England under Bazball, they sweat on boundary balls. They sweat on it. They just want to find the boundary to save cricket for all of us. But if we can bowl to them in an economical way, Stark's not going to be that. Stark's going to serve up the boundary ball. So look, it's something that definitely look at. How does Stark go this summer against this powerful Indian batting lineup? And then finally, Nathan Lyon, obviously getting on a bit, but my opinion on Nathan Lyon is until there's a spin bowler really bashing the door down, a genuine match winner waiting to come into the side, I think we let Lyon keep playing. He said he wants to go in the 2027 Ashes series. I see no reason why he can't. He just gets better with age. He performs so well. And, unless a Shane Warne comes along, I don't think you will force Lyon out of the side in the next few years. There are some very good off spinners coming through, Todd Murphy, Corey Rocchiccioli. But as I said, unless some leg spinner came through with a deadly flipper and a wrong-un, I don't think Lyon will be pushed out of the side. And I don't think he deserves to be. All right. So that is my first Mad Manners weekly column. Australia, will the test side fall off a cliff or will they go on to glory? It's all in front of them. India are coming. Then there's the World Test Championship final. And then the Ashes the summer after that. And just remember, if it goes wrong for Australia, it's going to be a disaster because nothing is worse than losing a home Ashes series. Just ask the Poms. All right. So just want to remind you all, we're back with our regular episodes of Cricket Unfiltered. Rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app. There's an ad-free version on the Patreon feed. Please go and subscribe, become a sponsor, and you'll get ad-free versions of all the Cricket Unfiltered episodes. There's a lot of contact details in the show notes. So if you want to get in touch, whether it's to sponsor the show or to just send in your feedback on the Mad Manners weekly episode, let me know. But thanks everybody for tuning in.